Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. It's in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Week, and so I thought, what better time to take an opportunity to talk all about how to deal with wedding anxiety. And so this episode is perfect for you if you are about to get married and you're feeling really stressed about things that are going to happen on the day. Or if you are a few weeks out and you've got tasks to do and you're not sure how to delegate them. Or maybe you're at the very beginning of your wedding planning journey and you just feel very overwhelmed by the volume of tasks that you have to do. Basically, no matter where you're at with your wedding planning journey, how far in or far out you are, there's something here for everyone. So today I'm going to talk through some really practical things. We're going to go through creating systems. We're going to talk about delegating. I'm going to talk you through some tasks that you can delegate to people. We're going to talk about affirmations and breathing exercises and how to be more present on the day. So first, before we get stuck in, let me just say that last week we spoke all about wedding planning regrets. And I had a few people write in and say that some of the things that they regret is that they weren't present enough or that they didn't reach out to ask for help. And so those types of conversations really inspired me to put together a whole episode really about how to prioritize your mental health, how to make sure that you aren't allowing your anxiety to get the better of you. So there are some things that are okay to be a little bit stressed about. You know, it is something new. For many of us, most of us, when we're planning a wedding, it's the first and only time we're ever going to do it. And so it's a whole new learning experience. It's new tasks. It's making lots of decisions. There's usually family politics. It's the only wedding that we will ever have. And so there's this pressure to make it perfect. And so there will be an element of wedding planning that is a little bit different, a little bit stressful. And sometimes it's just a matter of identifying what it is that's stressing us out so we can then solve the problem. We can make smart decisions, or we can, delegate a stressful task to someone else. So I always recommend that if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, why don't you begin by addressing exactly what it is that you're stressed about. And I'm going to give you a few examples, not to make you stressed about things that you haven't been stressed about, but rather to show you how you can solve the problem. So if you are stressed about the volume of tasks that you need to do, I would highly recommend getting a wedding planning checklist, because if you have a good checklist, like a 12-month checklist, not only will it tell you what to do, but it will also tell you when to do the tasks. So perhaps you are, say, 10 months into or 10 months before the big day, and you are stressing out about, some of the details that only need to be worked out in, say, 3 or 4 months' time. If you have a wedding planning checklist, you can get a handle on what you need to do now, and you can put everything else aside and get to it when you need to get to it. Maybe you're stressed about all the information and inspiration overload. If that's you, I would recommend unfollowing, celebrity wedding accounts and, not scrolling through lists of items and things that you don't need. So if you've already, booked your wedding venue, you don't need to be looking at other wedding venues. If you've already got your wedding dress, stop scrolling through Pinterest and looking at dresses, and avoid that inspiration overload, which might make you feel like you have made the wrong decision. Maybe you're stressed about what everything costs. Then I also recommend creating a detailed budget and putting some systems in place to really help you keep track of, what you've been quoted, what you've agreed to pay, deposits you've put down, payments you have left, and anything to do with budgets and wedding funds. Keep that together in one place and really set yourself up to manage your budget well and start having really frank conversations with your partner about some of the financial decisions that you're making around the wedding. Areas where you are happy to cut costs, areas where you really want to prioritize things, so you want to put lots of money into that. Have those open conversations. Maybe you are stressed about the family dynamics. Then again, sit down with your partner, talk about your options, and then remember that ultimately, no matter what happens, you and your partner are a team. Everything about the wedding day is to celebrate your love. And so no matter what is happening in the background, no matter who thinks that you should invite, these distant relatives, or no matter who thinks that you shouldn't do this thing or you should do that thing, ultimately, those things don't matter in the grand scheme of things. What really matters is you and your partner being on the same page. And so if you are stressed about any family dynamics, whether it's yours or your partner's, sit down and get on the same page as each other, and then you can have a game plan for how to tackle the issues that are stressing you out. So really what I'm trying to say here is one big step to take is to address what you're stressed about. So when it comes to anything in life that you're stressed about, sometimes the temptation is to put it aside and have a nap or, just avoid the problem, but it's not going to go away. So if you're stressed about something, work out what it is and see if there's a practical solution that you can put in place, a system or a conversation you can have, getting someone's help, and then you can move forward, and then you're not going to be stressed about that thing anymore. Another thing you can do is create some boundaries and systems. So Elaine says, my wedding was perfect, but I wish I hadn't overcommitted in the week or two coming up to it. I didn't think I'd be stressed, and I invited friends and family from overseas to stay with us. So what Elaine has really highlighted is if you don't have boundaries, if you don't have systems in place, then not only in her experience right before the wedding, but throughout the wedding planning journey, the wedding can kind of get the better of you, and you can enter into situations where you didn't think you'd be stressed, but then things just happen, and the wedding planning is happening around you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've lost control of everything. So here are some ways that you can take charge of your wedding planning journey right from the beginning. So no matter where you are in your journey, there'll be something in this list that you can do right now to take charge and create a boundary and a system so that you are the one, you and your partner together are the ones who are in charge of what is happening. Number one, get organized. So I already mentioned a wedding planning checklist. If you have a checklist and if you've got a system, you will be in charge of the paperwork and the admin, and you won't have an invoice lying at the bottom of someone's bag, and then another invoice in a different format from a different supplier sitting in a file somewhere, and then a note on your phone, and a message on Instagram, and an email somewhere else. Get yourself together. This is going to involve creating a system. So you need one system. It could be Google Drive. It could be spreadsheets. It could be a wedding planning folder. It could be an app. Whatever it is, pick a system and use that system for all your wedding planning tasks, and stick with it. If everything's in one place, you'll feel in charge. Get a wedding planning email account. So it can be a free Gmail account. You can call it like Glenn and Kelly Get Hitched at gmail.com, whatever it is. Make it easy to type, easy to spell. You can use that for all your wedding planning correspondence. So invoices, RSVPs, anything to do with the wedding will be in that email account. So it means that when you're at work, you're not going to have, a wedding email pop up that's going to cause anxiety. At night, when you're scrolling through Instagram just for fun on your phone, if you've disabled push notifications from your emails, which I highly recommend for everyone in every situation, you're not going to end up with a notification popping up at the last minute, at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, making you go, oh no, I forgot to do something. Email account is super helpful. At the start of your wedding planning journey, pick one day a week and let that be your wedding planning day. It could be a Saturday when you and your partner start the day by sitting down, going through the tasks that you need to do this week, touching base on tasks that needed to be done last week, seeing where you're at, allocating different tasks to different people, putting together a game plan. And then, of course, the closer you get to the big day, the more frequently you'll need to be doing wedding planning and tasks and all kinds of different things. But initially, take charge of your life by not letting wedding planning take over everything, and pick one day. It doesn't have to be the full day. It could be one night a week or 2 nights a week, or whatever system works for you. Just pick a set time where that's where you talk about wedding things. That's where you open your wedding planning emails and you go through quotes and everything together. And finally, if you want to take charge, you want to create some boundaries, make sure that you're making time for non-wedding things as well. Things like your job, date nights with your partner, hanging out with your friends, and make sure that when you're doing those things, you set aside time where wedding talk is off the table. Okay, Neve says, I wish I had asked for more help and had been offered more help the week of the wedding and before the wedding from family and friends, as it was quite stressful sorting the last minute things. Neve raises a good point that, getting help from family and friends is really helpful. So I'm going to walk you through how to delegate. Step 1, you have to be open with your friends and family, and they actually have to know that you need their help. Because if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. I'm going to say that again, in case you were listening. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So you have to be open with your friends and family about the fact that you need help with the tasks. Create a list of things that need to get done, and then who you think could take on which tasks. And I'll share a list in a moment of all the tasks. It's not even all the tasks. It's just to get your mind thinking some of the tasks that you could delegate to people. And then finally, let your partner know how you're feeling. So in an ideal world, both parties would be fully invested in or equally invested in wedding planning. But the reality is that that's just not always how it works. It's usually one person is more administrative, more creative, and maybe it just has, a clearer vision of what the day should be like, and therefore spearheads the wedding planning. Whereas the other person might have some things that they're particular about, but in general, they're pretty chilled and don't really mind what happens. No matter where you fall into this, it's really important that you both have conversations about the tasks that need to get delegated, and you both agree on who is doing what things. So here is a list of some tasks that you can delegate to other people. So your wedding party, family members, here's some things they can do. Anything to do with the hen and stag parties, you and your partner should not be thinking about that at all. Let your wedding party deal with it. So all you really need to do is tell them the kind of thing you want to do. So whether it's a night out, a weekend away, or, just a relaxing night in, whatever you feel like, whatever your expectation is, communicate that and then let them know roughly when you're available so that they can start planning. Something else to delegate, anything that needs to be handwritten, place cards, envelopes with wedding invitations in them, that kind of thing. Get someone else to do the writing. You can give them a list of the names and addresses, and someone else can do the writing. That's a manual task that you don't have to do. Anything that needs to be assembled or tied together. So favors or wedding invitation packs, if it's putting paper in an envelope and sealing it, putting a stamp on it, other people can do that. If it's a task that someone else could do, let them do it. Making a list of songs that you want at the wedding. So there may be some songs that you're particular about, like the song you walked down the aisle to, or the song that you played during your first dance. There'll be some key moments where you want to be really involved in what songs are played. But for the most part, it actually makes the most sense to get other people's opinions. So if you had to, for example, have a day where you're all stuffing envelopes together. This is what my husband and I did. We got as many people from the wedding party as possible. We created an assembly line. My role was to go through the list of who everything was going to. So this person and this person, they're a couple. Let's get one wedding envelope addressed to them. They can share, that kind of thing. And I made sure I had all the addresses and everything in one place. I then had someone next to me who was putting they were cutting something, and then the person next to them would take it and put it in an envelope. Then the next person was writing, all the names, and then somebody else had a pile of all the completed wedding invitation packs, and somebody else is then putting them into piles of this is school friends, church friends, work friends, all that kind of thing. But what you could do during that time is you could have a playlist, find something on Spotify, fun wedding songs, for example, and you can all be listening to it together, and someone's role on the day while you're doing your tasks together could be to take note of all the songs that people say, yes, that's really fun, it's added to the list. Again, you don't need to be the one sitting and listening to a whole playlist and making a list of songs. Another task, dress duty. You could assign someone the task, someone trustworthy, the task of storing a wedding dress before the big day. So there's a whole separate episode on the podcast about how to store your dress, how to hang it, how to make sure that the light doesn't shine on your dress and change the color, how to make sure that you have vacuumed the room correctly so that you're not getting dust and everything. Someone else could take on that task so that you don't have to. What about pickups and deliveries? Think about decor, favors, and any other items that need to be picked up, delivered, and then returned again. Somebody else can oversee that whole process. All you need is a list of what needs to be picked up, where it needs to be picked up from, and when. And you can then say to perhaps one of the wedding party members, could you please go to this place at this time? These are the items you need to collect. Just check that everything's in order and deliver them to this location. Again, manual task that you don't need to do. And finally, on my not exhaustive list, anything that needs to be set up could be done by your wedding venue, your planner, your decor team, or any other professionals who are making sure that everything looks good. 2 more things for you today. I just wanted to draw attention to an episode of the podcast, episode 63, which is a guided meditation for anybody who's struggling with wedding stress. In the episode, we did things like this. We had affirmations. So here's one. I'll give you an example of an affirmation. And this is something that I get everyone to repeat after me in the episode. Each decision we make brings us closer to the wedding of our dreams. And there's so many more affirmations like that. But it's the kind of thing where in saying things out loud, you're reminding yourself that all the stress that you might be going through, you're making decisions and you're getting closer and closer to the wedding day. Something else we did was a guided visualization where I got people to picture their wedding day, and it really helps you to focus on the main thing, which is to get married to your best friend in front of your friends and family. And the guided visualizations really to help you feel like you're there in the moment and all the little things become less important. And then a really key thing that we did was the 3-4-5 breathing. And so if you're feeling stressed, I'll quickly break it down for you now, but then episode 63 is a great space to really do the breathing together. But the idea is that you breathe in for 3 seconds, you hold for 4, and then you breathe out for 5. So I don't know the science behind it, but it's got something to do with spending more time exhaling than inhaling. It does something to your body and to your brain, which really helps to calm you down. And it really helps to reduce anxiety. So it's something like this. Why don't you try it with me? We'll do it once, and then you can listen to episode 63 to do it for real. So breathe in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that 2 or 3 times, and I'm telling you, the stress will start to melt away. And finally, Elaine says, I wish I had reminded myself to be more present. I feel like I was constantly flitting from person to person, and I really don't recall much from the day. Well, if you are worried that that's going to happen to you, there's a whole episode 47, about being more present at your wedding day. And I'm going to very quickly run through some of the things from that episode. But I recommend that you listen to the whole episode. It's 47, all about being present on your wedding day. And here's some practical things you can do ahead of time to make sure that you are able to be present. Add wiggle room to your timeline so that you're not rushing from one thing to the next. Just like Elaine said, she was going from one person to the next, one event to the next. Wiggle room in the timeline means that you will have space. Be okay with showing your emotions. It's okay if you cry. Those things really help you to really enjoy what's happening in the moment and not to be trying to get it over and done with. Find ways you can enjoy special time together as a couple. It could be that you get ready together. It could be that you have a first look, or that you find a moment to share your vows privately before or after your official ceremony. Try and enjoy your meal together. So make a point of not getting up to do wedding things during the mealtime, but actually sit down, enjoy your meal, talk to your partner, talk to your wedding party and your family if you're all seated together. Sneak out for a bit of alone time. A good time to do that is when you've finished eating, but the guests are still eating. Just sneak out for a few minutes and just look at everything and go, oh my gosh, we did it. We planned our wedding and we're married. Hire a wedding planner, because that means you can enjoy the day while someone else is dealing with the logistics of where people need to get set up and what time speeches need to happen and when the DJ needs to do this thing and that thing. You don't need to be dealing with that. Put your phone away. Have fun. Everyone you know and love is in the room. You don't need your phone with you anyway. You've got a professional photographer, videographer, content creator, making sure everything's captured. So you don't need to be doing that either. And finally, a little tip, wear comfortable shoes. It'll help you to be present because you're not going to be dealing with sore feet. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.